Okay, so the next example we're doing is finding variance and standard deviation for group data. So we're given a frequency distribution. This one's for the exam scores. We have 108 college student exam scores, and this is their frequency distribution. And what we want to do is find the standard deviation and the variance for the group data. Now this is kind of like when we did group data for we found the mean for group data. We need a few more columns of information here to be able to do this. So I need midpoint. We're going to need frequency times midpoint. This was x sub n. So frequency times midpoint. And we're also going to need frequency times midpoint squared. Now notice the only thing being squared here is the midpoint value. So we square the midpoint and then we multiply it by the frequency. So let's first go find all these values here. So the first one, we need midpoint of the classes. So we're going to add the two class limits and divide by 2. So 90 plus 98 divided by 2 is 94. And then the next one, 99 plus 107 divided by 2 is 103. Now what's the difference between those? If I went 103 minus 94, I'd get 9. So each time the midpoint is going up by 9. So if I add 9 to this is 112, 121, and 130 are my midpoints. Okay. So you can either figure out how much it's going up each time, or you can go and calculate it each time. It doesn't much matter. Now the next one is frequency times midpoint. So for example, this one would be 6 times 94, 22 times 103, and we want to find each one of these values. So 6 times 94, 564, and then 266, and then keep multiplying. So I get 48, 16, 3, 3, 8, 8, and 1170. Now the next column, you gotta be a little careful here because it's not just the previous column squared. That's wrong. What you want to do is take the midpoint, square it, and multiply it by the frequency. So this is 6 times 94 squared. And the only thing being squared is the 94. And the next one would be 22 times 103 squared. And you're going 43 times 112 squared, and so on. So 6 times 94 squared, and the only thing being squared is 94. Now these are going to be big numbers, so let me make a little room for them. Let's just go down below because I don't want to lose that information. So f times xm squared. So the first one I got was 53016, and then I keep going. And if we keep moving on, these are the numbers I get when I go frequency times midpoint squared. And you should check to make sure you're getting these same values so that you're making sure that you're doing your calculation right. The biggest mistake I see is that people just take frequency times midpoint, that number, and square it. And that's not what you want to do. You want to square the midpoint first and then multiply it by frequency. Now, we've got these things, and what we're trying to do is really fit these into our formula that says the standard deviation, or the variance, is the number of data points times the sum of the squared points minus the sum of the points squared divided by n times n minus 1. Okay. Now, we've got to use these data sets to figure out these different variables in here. Now, the first thing is frequency. If we add that column, that gives us n. If we do frequency times midpoint. Again, we're going to add everything with a frequency in it, and that's going to be a value over here. So frequency times midpoint is the sum of the x's. So that's the sum of the x's. And frequency times midpoint squared, that's the sum of the x squareds. So we're going to add each of these columns and use those values in this formula. So if we look at the frequency and we add them, I get 108, and that should be it. Remember, they actually told us that they did 108 college students, so that's correct. And then if we add the frequency times midpoint, I get 12204, and then if we do frequency times midpoint squared, I don't know if I did that right. Let me do that again. 53016 plus 212398 plus 539392 plus 409948 plus 152100. Okay, that's right. I get 138785. All really big numbers. I get that. All right, so now we're going to take each one of these values and plug them in. So let's get some color coordination here. This is n. This is x squared. And this is x, and this is x squared. Okay, so here we go. We're going to try this out. So this is equal to n, which is 108, times x squared, which is this huge number, 138785, minus this number 12204, and I still got to square it, divided by n, which is 108, times n minus 1, which is 107. Okay, so those are where those numbers went in. Now we got to actually calculate this stuff. Okay, so let's see. 108 times 1387854 12204 squared divided by 108 times 107. Okay, so one more calculation. 1, 4, let me just do it this way. So I get 950,616 divided by 556, and I get the following. I get 82.3 3. We got to go at least one more decimal place than the data that's given. All right, now that is our variance. This is our sample variance. So now we want to find our sample standard deviation, and that's always so much easier. It's just the square root of the answer that we got. Now, this variance is always going to come out. It should always come out positive. So if you get a negative number, you know you have a miscalculation. So when we find the standard deviation, it's the square root of our variance, and I get 9.1 as my standard deviation if I take it to one decimal place. So that's our sample standard deviation. All right, so that's how we do sample variance and standard deviation for group data. Is we use the same formula that we had before, but how we find the numbers is set up in the table. Okay, after this we're going to talk about coefficient of variation and the range, the rule of thumb for range. And then we have Chebyshev's theorem. So we'll get there. We're getting there, guys.